Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. It's Brad and what's this guy's name again? What's this guy's name?
Steve Ehlmann.
Steve Ehlmann. And
Bill Eigel, Jason Law. Pick your poison, Brad.
Well, you know, it's funny you should bring that up because of the fact that you and I have, can we do a little bit of discussion on the show here right off the top?
Yeah, let's do it. Admin stuff.
Tomorrow, 7:45, Catherine Hanaway. You gave me the lead on that, so we got her all firmed up. Her comms lady is an excellent person. Got it all nailed down for tomorrow at 7:45. Should be interesting in light of all the crazy stuff going on with the sheriff of St. Louis, who I guess is still in jail. Isn't that the situation? The guy's still in jail, buddy?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess we'll find out tomorrow from Mrs. Hanaway.
Now, you mentioned Jason Law, and this is what I have to run by you. I had my guest host. I had Bill Eigel, who did Tuesday, who was actually very good. Then on Thursday, we had Steve Ehlmann, who is very good as well. And then Friday morning, we were all geared up for Jason Law, and he got really sick. Actually, he got sick on Thursday, which was his birthday, unfortunately, and he was not able to do the show on Friday morning. So we did not do him. The guy who's running his campaign, another John Conlon, asked me if we could possibly do C Block on Wednesday. So I want to run that by you. Is that possible? Does that work for you?
That's great. That sounds great, Brad. So like 7:45 on Wednesday. That'd be great.
Yeah, and I was thinking what we'd do is you and I would do the A and B blocks together on Wednesday, and then I'll just do him the entire block on from 7:42 or whatever to the top of the hour. Does that work for you then?
That sounds great. There's two things I want to know from Jason Law.
Okay. I'll write down. Tell me.
Okay, write them down. I want you to ask him about your popular meme from the spring where you said you heard from two people that he had been uninvited to the mayor's ball.
Oh, I'll ask him about that.
Okay, I'm sure you will.
Okay.
And then secondly, I want you to ask, you've criticized him for taking a lot of money from donors outside of St. Charles County. I want you to ask him about that as well.
Well, you know, what's funny you should mention that because talking with his campaign manager, John Conlon, I got a little insight into that was sort of interesting, to be honest with you.
That's good. And, you know, I've provided that side of the story, too. I think it would be good if you directly ask him about it, since you have the opportunity to ask him about it. Maybe don't spoil the answer. Maybe let Jason answer that on Wednesday, Brad.
Now, John, I have to ask you something, okay?
Sure.
Remember, well, I won't go into too much detail on this. I'll just come right in and say this. I was a little bit, I guess.
Did you read the post?
Did I read what post?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was a little bit concerned about the end of the interview with Steve Ehlmann on Thursday. And matter of fact, I brought up you. We talked about the fact that, you had given me those campaign statistics as far as cash on hand, both, direct funding with PACs and things like that. And I came to him and I say, Steve, I think you have around $3,000. And he corrected me. He said, no, I only have $2,000. So, we talked about that, and he said he was behind on that. But then when it came, as I do, with most of my guests, I'd say, how do contact information, what's your website, how do people contact you, that kind of stuff. And I said, like in all the guests, I said, how do people contribute to the campaign? And he says, well, send a check to my house. Now, I'm sort of paraphrasing what he said. He gives out his home address on the air for people to send a check to him.
Yeah, that can work.
Yeah, but I'm thinking to myself, in today's politics, isn't that like old school, old school, old school, old school?
Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess a lot of folks do contribute cash online or pay online. But at the same time, Brad, he's going to get the check. He's going to report the check. It's not like you're giving him a wad of cash or a German chocolate cake or some macaroons. Like, it's coming to his house.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's anything unscrupulous about that. I'm just saying it's sort of like if you go to the grocery store and the person in front of you pulls out their checkbook, you go, oh, crap, I'm going to be here forever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's old school, and in today's society, there are a lot of people, me included, I have a checking account, but I don't have any checks. I use my debit card off my checking account, and if I do have something that I need to, purchase where they want like not necessarily cash or credit card, I get a money order, or if it's something big, I get a cashier's check.
Yeah. Well, I think there's really no difference. Excuse me. If you were to contribute to Steve Ehlmann, if you were to send a check to a post office box, or you were to send a check to Steve's house.
Yeah, but you're missing my point, and there's an interesting thing here. This is sort of interesting because I'm involved in a leads group, and they've gone from a free leads group to a paid leads group, and this was my meeting I go to on Friday mornings, and it's the same situation. It's like, okay, there's a bunch of young people in this group, and it's to the point where like, okay, they have a website. Why don't you just put a website up? And to the point where, you and I both being, web people, both, knowing WordPress, I could put up a site if you said go right now.
Yeah. So you're saying the point that I'm missing is that you think checks are outdated.
No, I'm saying that what happens nowadays, everybody has different methods they pay. There's some people still walking around with cash, me included. I still use a lot of cash.
And some people played with credit cards. And Brad, that is the story. And story number 2, it's 7:10. So let's get to it. And when we get to story number 2, we're going to talk about paying with credit card versus check. Can we get into it?
That is John Combest. Every single day of his life for the past 24 years, he puts together this incredible website, johncombest.com, Combest. We take the show in A block, which we're in right now, and we do the top 3. We start off with this gentleman. Your name, sir, again?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he starts us off with John's top 3 by saying these words.
In third place,
oh, hello. Welcome to the Golden Apple Buffet. If you take a look at our menu, you see column A, column B. From column A, you choose immigrant from Mexico. Column B, choose your favorite immigrant from Guatemala. I'll be right back with your water.
A headline from yesterday's St. Louis Post-Dispatch, brought to us by Colleen Schrappen. New immigration conspiracy charges filed in St. Charles restaurant case. The last time you and I were together on the air, we talked about the Golden Apple Buffet in St. Charles County, I believe on Mexico Road. And we talked about their immigration attorney, noted immigration attorney Jim Hacking, revered immigration attorney, and how he had appeared on St. Louis Public Radio. He represented a number of the actual workers there. And Mr. Hacking said, hey, my people had their paperwork. My people went about it the right way. Now, unless I'm mistaken, Mr. Hacking, the immigration attorney, does not represent the ringleaders in this case. Let's get back to Colleen Schrappen's piece from the Post-Dispatch. 4 people with ties to the Golden Apple Buffet in St. Charles have been indicted by a federal grand jury on more than a dozen charges alleging they hired and housed people living in the country illegally. Now, according to what I read here, Brad, and according to how I read it, they were originally just charged with bringing in and harboring illegal aliens. But the additional charges filed on Wednesday include a conspiracy to employ people illegally, hiring and harboring the undocumented aliens, identification fraud, and transport of undocumented individuals. Apparently, taking them from a house to the restaurant is considered transporting illegal aliens. So, as I read this, the guy of the couple is charged with 8 counts, and the woman of the couple is charged with 7, according to the indictment. If you've ever driven behind an Asian woman, maybe she's not charged with transport. I don't know if you would trust the transport of anyone to an Asian woman. New charges include 2 additional people, one named Feng Yi, and another one charged named Maria Cruz Cortez. They face 6 counts each. So in short, Brad, the original charges of harboring folks here in the United States who were undocumented have been expanded to transport faking documents. They also allegedly faked Social Security cards, faked residence cards, and faked work eligibility documents. You want one from column A from Mexico or one from column B, Guatemala? I'm sorry about my odor. We get stinky as we get older. It has something to do with the enzymes in our liver, I think.
So John, what you're saying is the original defense was these were all legal people, had their legal paperwork in order, and now what you're saying is the paperwork was forged?
Yeah, some of the paperwork was forged. Now I think we should pause here for a second and point out that Mr. Hacking said that his clients had legit paperwork, and by the way, a bunch of them have already been deported. So in other words, no blood, no foul. The way I look at it, they got the heck out of the country. If they did have any forged paperwork, they're already gone. You can't re-deport them. But Mr. Hacking said that their paperwork was legitimate. But remember, Mr. Hacking from that original St. Louis Public Radio interview, he said he didn't represent all the people that were arrested. He certainly, as I understand it, he didn't represent the ringleaders either. So in other words, some of these illegal aliens that had fake paperwork, I don't think Jim Hacking represented all of those folks.
Interesting. Okay. Number 2, ready for that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Up a notch to number 2.
Brad, in your special, detailed, and often tedious way, you discussed paper checks versus electronic payments. And as you do unwittingly, you led very deftly into story number 2 today. It's brought to us in the Kansas City Star. A woman named Jess Ward works for the National Taxpayers Union. And boy, there is a state tax policy, a regulation that's going to grind your gears. Here's what Ms. Ward says. Sometimes the smallest rule changes hit your wallet the hardest. Missouri wants to tax your payment method. A new proposal from the State Department of Revenue would quietly start taxing not just what you buy, but how you pay. According to a newly proposed rule, if you purchase a $50 item, the store adds a $3 fee for using the credit card. Let's say they add a $3 fee. The state now wants to calculate sales tax on $53 and not the $50. Now, I'll summarize in the interest of time Ms. Ward's point here, which is the State Department of Revenue, if they want to do a little money grab, if they want to start getting more money, they need to do the right thing and pass this through the legislature. Now, Brad, we're only hearing one side of the story, and we're hearing this from the National Taxpayers Union. We don't hear the side of the story from the Missouri Department of Revenue. But the National Taxpayers Union says, look, you want more money, go to lawmakers. They say this is not just a little tweak, a little administrative tweak. This is actually adding a tax to what Missourians are going to pay. So what we see here, Brad, I have to admit, I haven't seen anything in mainstream media about this additional charge coming from the Missouri Department of Revenue. And as I often say, just because I didn't see it doesn't mean it didn't happen. I missed plenty of things. But Miss Ward's point, she ends with, tax what you buy, not how you buy it. Missourians deserve better than a stealth tax on convenience. Brad, what do you think? Is the state right? Is good old Trish Vincent, the venerated leader of the Missouri Department of Revenue, is she right to say, hey, revenue's revenue, we're going to get our money, including the convenience fee?
Okay, so you're not talking about the percentage. You're talking about if the vendor, let's say you go into a store and the vendor says, or this merchant says, okay, it's like you gave $50 and we charge a $2 convenience fee for a credit card. That's what would be charged. But if they don't charge you a convenience fee, then it doesn't matter then, right?
You're exactly right, Brad.
Okay.
That's a great way to put it. That's a succinct way to put it.
Don't you find it a little bit ironic that and me having firsthand experience, when I go down to DOR to Jefferson City, like you make fun of me, and when I pay for my license plates and my driver's license with my debit card, they charge me a convenience fee. Don't you find it a tad bit ironic? because of the fact that now the DOR, who is already charging a convenience fee for their transactions, but yet that wouldn't be taxed because of the fact that they're the government. Get what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. I think that, DOR does what a private group would do, which is in addition to your convenience fee, and, they have to let you know that it costs money for retailers, excuse me, and even state government to process your fee with a credit card. I'm just glad when you go to DOR, they don't turn the pan around and ask you to add a 15, 18, or 20% tip.
Yeah, there you go. I heard a guy recently talk about this. He says he went to an airport and there was one of the little convenience stores inside the concourse.
Yeah, like a Hudson News or something.
Right, and it was totally automated to the point where you checked out. There was no one there. It was like honor method. You went up and you checked out. And when he checked out, the screen came up for a tip, and he says, "For who?"
Maybe for the store owner, Brad. A little gratuity there.
I guess.
Reminds me of artificial intelligence, which is story number 1.
The number one.
A headline from Missouri Net, more specifically, Marshall Griffin. Senator Josh Hawley co-sponsoring bill to keep track of AI job losses. Senator Hawley is teaming up with a Democrat, Mark Warner of Virginia, to co-sponsor a bill designed to keep track of layoffs and job losses caused by the implementation of AI. Here's what Hawley says. So here's what our legislation would do. It would require these tech companies to come forward with data about how many jobs they are cutting because of AI and how many they're creating. They're out there saying, oh, we're going to have a job bonanza. Great. Let's see the evidence. And Marshall Griffin goes on to explain, the bill would require federal agencies and major companies provide quarterly reports on AI-related job losses to the U.S. Labor Department, which would then provide an annual report to Congress. Now, I know we're up against time here, Brad. I think one of the challenges with Josh Hawley's legislation is how exactly, if you're a company in the St. Louis area, if you're Energizer or Enterprise or Bayer or whoever, how do you exactly quantify how many jobs you lose to AI? I mean, if AI makes eventually everybody's job a little bit easier and you're able to provide, 5% job cuts to your corporate leaders, like how do you actually quantify that? Now, Brad, this would be a good entree for you to discuss the rumor that Republicans are going to trade Josh Hawley for somebody named Zork.
John, I'm always suspect of these numbers with the job numbers because having run companies in the past, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, last week, and this is going back in the back, and back in the day, there was one time when I hired 5 people in a week. Okay, I didn't report that to anybody. You know what I mean?
Why? Yeah, why would you?
Well, and so how do they get those numbers? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of, it's not really a science, it's more of an art, wouldn't you say?
Well,
and I think that was the criticism of every president, is massaging the jobs numbers.
It's like, can I pull back the curtain for a radio BS?
Oh, yeah, please do.
When you hear someone on the radio say, hey, right now it's 23 degrees at our studios, it's 22 in St. Peter's, 29 in Crestwood, and it's 28 in O'Fallon. You know what that is?
Yeah, that's Jennifer Wojcicki broadcasting from my bedroom.
No, it's BS because there is no source for those temperatures.
Yeah, they're just guessing.
Yeah.
They're using probably national weather data, don't you think?
No, there's no source for it. See, the only data that officially is recorded is the temperature at the airport, which is interesting because the Weather Bureau, Weather Service, whatever you want to call it, used to be at the airport. They're not there anymore. They're out in Weldon Spring. Actually, they're technically in Weldon Spring Heights. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Oh, wow. Weird. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
But the point being is there's no official temperature gauge in your house or there are guys.
Yeah, it's not like the old days where you would have temperature gauges. And I know we're 2 minutes over time, Brad. I'd like to point out you, again, unwittingly bringing up groups bringing in money, fundraising, contributions, and AI. A fantastic piece in the Missouri Times on Friday by Casey Burns, Lead Belt Strategies. the top Republican fundraiser in the state of Missouri, wrote a piece about AI and political campaigns. How will AI change those campaigns? The piece is called Campaign Fundraising is Still a Human Job in the Age of AI. It is the first part of a 3-part series, and you can find it by either going to the Missouri Times website or going to johncombest.com and clicking on Friday.
John, you're a guy who cuts your own grass at your house, right?
I do, yeah.
How long would it take you to cut your grass if you went out there with a pair of scissors and got down on your hands and knees and cut each individual blade?
Oh, man, days.
Okay, so your lawnmower essentially is a tool.
It is, and some people are opposing AI. And, Brad, I heard from you every week for the past few months that China is actually dedicated to becoming a leader in AI when communities in the United States are NIMBY and cave.
Don't get me going on that. Okay, we have to take a break.